just because we were weak, but because we were unpredictable. When humanity is offered a peace treaty that's really a prison sentence, one commander dares to say no. What follows is a story of defiance, mystery, and a cosmic power watching from beyond the stars. This isn't just diplomacy, it's survival. And the universe will never be the same. If you're new here, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and show some love by smashing that like button. Your support helps us bring more powerful stories to life. Now let's dive into this incredible journey. Commander Joran Vale stood near the main viewport of the Earthship Stellar Ray, arms folded, eyes fixed on the shimmer of Arvin Prime. The space station spun slowly, its rings catching the light from a distant red dwarf. Arvin Prime wasn't just a city in the sky. It was the heart of the interstellar union, the place where decisions that shaped hundreds of species were made. And now, for the first time in history, humans had been invited to speak. Or at least, to listen. He had waited years for this moment. Humanity had developed faster than light travel only 70 years ago. In galactic terms, they were toddlers, loud, unpredictable, full of wild potential. And the Union didn't like unpredictable. Vale had studied their behavior during his training at the Diplomatic Academy. Polite, careful, always smiling while pushing their own agendas. He hated it, but he also understood the stakes. Earth needed trade, access to technology, a seat at the table. So he played the role they gave him, the quiet, respectful new guest. Lieutenant Selon Fay, sharp-eyed and blunt as ever, leaned against a nearby console. They gave us 30 minutes to review a 200-page treaty, sir. Not suspicious at all. Vale didn't reply. He tapped the edge of the console, eyes narrowing. The treaty was too neat, too final. No debate, no negotiation. Just sign and accept. According to the terms, Earth would be granted limited contact with other civilizations but would be restricted to their own solar system for the next 250 years. Trade would be managed entirely through intermediaries, no exploration, no diplomacy, no growth. It's a cage, Vale finally muttered. Selon nodded. A cage with gold bars. They're dressing it up as safety. But it's fear, isn't it? They're afraid of us. Before he could answer, the communications panel lit up. Commander Vale, came a calm voice. This is Envoy Talris. The council session will begin in 10 minutes. Please be prepared to address the delegation. Vale acknowledged with a nod, then turned to Selon. Get Brill. I want him to run another scan on that transmission we intercepted last night. You think it's related? Selon asked, already tapping her wrist communicator. I don't know, he said, but the timing is too perfect. Right as we're offered this treaty, we pick up a signal from the dark edge of Union space. A signal the Council refuses to talk about. Brill arrived quickly. The neuro-intuitive technician was young but brilliant, with a unique ability to sense patterns in data. His eyes always seemed to be seeing more than anyone else. You wanted me, Commander? Run another analysis on the anomaly from last night, dig deeper, and cross-check the frequency against any restricted data you've seen. Brill hesitated. Commander, accessing Union-restricted files is... Quietly, Vale interrupted. I'll take the risk. Brill gave a small nod and hurried. Off Vale looked once more at the treaty. They think they can fence us in, like they've done to others. I've read the old reports. Every new species that signs one of these agreements disappears from the headlines. 5, maybe 6 civilizations in the last 200 years, all quiet. No more exploration, no more development, just quiet. You think we're next? Selon asked, her voice low. I think we already are. Unless we do something. The doors to the diplomatic chamber slid open with a smooth hiss. Commander Vale walked in, wearing the formal gray and silver uniform of the Earth Alliance. Behind him stood Selon and 2 aides. Around the room, 17 delegations waited, each seated on raised platforms. Some were reptilian, others insect-like. A few floating in containment fields filled with gases or liquids. All watched silently as the human team approached the center dais. Envoy Talris, an elegant being with translucent skin and a glowing core, gestured politely. Commander Vale, the Council welcomes humanity. We understand you have reviewed the proposed integration treaty. Vale held up the tablet. We have, and we thank the Council for this opportunity. He paused, letting the silence stretch. But we do have a few concerns. Whispers flickered through the chamber. Vale could see a few delegates shifting, uncomfortable. Talris's smile dimmed only slightly. Please, Commander. Proceed. He didn't sugarcoat it. The treaty effectively locks Earth out of interstellar development for the next 2.5 centuries. It denies us the chance to explore, to grow, to stand among you as equals. It's not a partnership, it's a sentence. Murmurs now. Stronger, louder. One delegate covered in fine metallic scales leaned forward. The terms are standard for new entrants. Safety measures, nothing more. Vale took a slow breath. Then why are so many species who signed similar agreements now silent? We don't hear from them, we don't see them. Are they safe? Or are they contained? That silenced the room. At that moment, Brill's voice came through the private. Come in Vale's ear. Commander, I found something. That signal we intercepted, it's a match to archived emergency frequencies, classified level. Something the Council has hidden. Vale's jaw tightened. He didn't share it, yet. But the seed was planted. The Council wasn't telling everything. And now, humans weren't, playing along. As the session closed and the human delegation was escorted out, the chamber buzzed with tension. Talris's voice followed them. We hope you will reconsider. Vale didn't respond. The stellar ray returned to orbit, silent as space itself. But something had shifted. The galaxy had just met the one species that wouldn't go quietly. Commander Joran Vale sat alone in the observation deck of the stellar ray, watching Arvin Prime slowly spin beneath the stars. The planet-sized station shimmered with lights, a false promise of peace and unity. Hours had passed since the tense council session, but his mind hadn't stopped racing. Something about the treaty, and the council itself, felt wrong. Not just cautious, but deliberately controlling. As if they were hiding something and humanity had been caught in their net. The door behind him slid open with a soft hiss. Lieutenant Selon Fei stepped inside, holding a datapad. You need to see this, sir, she said, her voice low. Brill found something. Vale took the pad and glanced at the display. Brill Kame's face appeared in a pre-recorded message, his expression unusually serious. Commander, he began, the signal we intercepted isn't just old, it's ancient. It matches warning signals stored in heavily restricted council archives. We only found the match by scanning fragmented files buried in the Union's memory network. What's strange is the signal's signature. It's almost like a distress beacon, but not from any known species. Something about it feels off. And whatever it is, it's active again. Vale frowned, handing the pad back to Selon. So the council knew about this signal all along and said nothing. Worse, Selon said, folding her arms. They've been hiding it from every new species they invite in, including us. The next morning, a second council session was called. This time it was smaller. No audience, no fanfare. Only selected ambassadors and one representative from humanity. Vale stepped onto the central platform, greeted by polite nods and unreadable faces. Envoy Talris stood once again at the center, calm and graceful. Commander Vale, he said, have you come to discuss the revised treaty terms? Vale took a breath. No. I've come to ask questions. The chamber was silent. You offered us a deal, he continued, voice steady. A treaty that restricts our movement, our trade, even our research. You say it's for safety, but we've found evidence that suggests there's more going on. Something hidden. Talris gave a small, patient smile. There are matters that do not concern new members. That's not good enough, Vale said. We intercepted a signal, one your archives marked as classified. It's a warning, isn't it? A danger from outside the known galaxy. A murmur passed through the chamber. One of the delegates, An insectoid named Vurek clicked its mandibles and leaned forward. You accessed restricted data? By accident, Vale lied. But now that we know, we deserve answers. Talris's smile faded. The signal you refer to is ancient. It was dismissed long ago as a relic of a forgotten age. There is no current threat. Vale stepped closer. Then why hide it? Why the treaty? Why keep us isolated for centuries, cut off from progress? A new voice joined the conversation. It belonged to Captain Vero Deshan, a tall feline-like alien from the far reaches of Union space. Deshan had been mostly silent until now, observing with sharp, curious eyes. Because they're afraid, he said calmly. Afraid of waking, the thing that made that signal. Vale turned to face him. You believe it's real? I've seen hints of it. Empty planets. Whole systems abandoned. Not destroyed, just emptied. Like the minds vanished, but the bodies were untouched. Deshan's voice was quiet but firm. The Council is built on silence. They believe if they pretend the threat isn't real, it won't return. Talris turned toward Deshan, his tone now cool. Captain, this is not your place. Someone has to speak the truth, Deshan replied. Vale looked around the chamber. Some delegates looked troubled. Others stared ahead, impassive. But the silence spoke volumes. They knew. And they were afraid. Back aboard the Stellar Ray, Vale called an emergency meeting with his team. Ceylon, Brill, and 2 diplomatic aides gathered in the main briefing room. The Council won't talk, Vale began. But we've confirmed what we feared. Something out there scared them so much, they'd rather trap new civilizations than risk a second encounter. Brill nodded. And that signal is active again, which means, whatever it was, it might be coming back. What do we do? One of the aides asked. We prepare, Vale said, and we find out what else they're hiding. That night, Vale received an encrypted transmission. No origin point, no sender, just a voice, smooth, ancient, and unmistakably alien. Commander Vale, it said, you've taken your first step toward the truth. But truth is a blade. Wield it carefully, or it will cut deeper than you expect. The message ended. No trace left. Vale sat alone in the dark, staring at the stars outside his window. Somewhere, beyond the edges of known space, a storm was waiting, and humanity, restless, bold, and not so easily silenced, was walking straight into it. But they weren't walking blind anymore. The stars outside the viewport of the Stellar Ray no longer looked peaceful. They shimmered like distant eyes, watching in silence as the ship slipped away from the edges of Union space. Commander Joran Vale stood on the bridge, hands clasped behind his back, watching the stars blur into streaks as the ship moved at faster-than-light speed. The mission was unofficial, quiet, and dangerous. They were headed into uncharted territory, the zone known in Council records only as Sector Black. It was a place older maps marked with no names, only a warning: do not enter. The crew was tense. Even the hum of the engines felt heavier. Lieutenant Selen Fay sat at the tactical station, checking the weapons system again. Brill Kayam hunched over the science console, his fingers dancing across glowing keys. Across the bridge, the younger crew members whispered less and watched more. They had all read the report. What little there was. Empty systems, civilizations, gone quiet. And now a signal had started again, the same one from the Council's classified archives. It pulsed from deep within Sector Black like a heartbeat in the dark. As they approached the coordinates Brill had traced, the ship began to slow. The stars steadied. In the center of the main screen, space seemed to shimmer. Not with light, but with something that bent around it, like space itself was peeling open. The object that appeared wasn't a ship. It wasn't even alive. It was a ring, massive, black, and cold. It floated in silence, slowly rotating, surrounded by nothing. No planets, no debris, just the void. What is it? Salon whispered. A gateway, Brill replied softly. A door to somewhere else. Commander Vale stepped forward. Is it transmitting? No signal, Brill said. But it's active. There's power. A lot of it. They stared for a long moment. Then Vale gave the order. Bring us in closer, slow approach, weapons on standby. As the stellar ray crept toward the gateway, the crew prepared for anything. But there was no welcome. No defenses. Just silence. The closer they got, the more strange things began to happen. Instruments gave conflicting readings. Lights dimmed without reason. At one point, the ship's artificial gravity shifted for half a second, then returned to normal. Brill called it dimensional turbulence. Selin called it bad news. An hour later, the sensors picked up a second ship approaching. It was the Kalan Drift, a crystalline vessel belonging to the Shardari, a race known for their ancient ways and deep knowledge of cosmic anomalies. Their ambassador, Rykos, had once warned Vale that the galaxy kept secrets too dark for daylight. Now he had returned. The communication opened with no introduction. Rykos's voice crackled through, calm and low. Commander Vale, you have found the door. We're not the only ones who want answers, Vale replied. Why hasn't the Council sent a research team here? They have, Rykos said, but none returned. Vale's jaw tightened. So we're walking into a trap. No, you're standing at the edge of a choice. Step forward and you'll change everything. Step back and the galaxy will go on pretending nothing waits on the other side. Vale didn't answer. He turned to Brill. Any changes in the ring? Still stable, Brill said. But I think it's watching us. I know that sounds impossible. It doesn't, Vale said. Not anymore. That night, the ship's systems began to misbehave. Lights flickered again. Doors opened, on their own. Brill reported small waves of energy rolling off the gateway, some kind of communication but not through any known language. Vale started to feel something too, something in his thoughts, like a whisper just beyond hearing. He wasn't alone. The rest of the crew reported headaches, strange dreams, memories that weren't their own. One crewman claimed to see his childhood pet walking the halls. Another heard her mother's voice calling from the engine room. It was as if the ring was reaching into their minds. Vale gathered the senior officers in the command room. This isn't a machine, he said. It's something more. It's intelligent, and it's trying to make contact. Selin shook her head. Or it's testing us. We don't know what it wants. We need to know, Brill said. We came for the truth. Just then the ship jolted. Every screen on the bridge turned black, then lit up with a single image. Stars, but not from their galaxy. Brill confirmed it. That's not our sky. Those constellations don't match anything. It's showing us where it comes from, Vale whispered. The moment passed. Systems returned. The crew stared at each other, shaken but alert. Vale took a slow breath. We've seen enough. Send a message back to Earth Command. They need to know what we've found. As Brill began preparing the message, the gateway pulsed once. Then again. A deep, vibrating sound filled the ship. It wasn't loud, but it settled into their bones. The ring is opening, Brill said. Something's coming. Vale stared at the dark void inside the gate. Then we stand ready. Whatever it is, we meet it head on. Behind him, the stars continued to watch. The moment the ring opened, the air on the stellar ray seemed to shift. There was no explosion, no flare of light, just a deep vibration that rattled the bones of everyone on board. It was like the universe had drawn a breath. On the main screen, the black center of the gateway shimmered like water disturbed by an invisible hand. Then something began to emerge, slow, massive, and impossible to describe. It was not a ship, not in any familiar sense. Its shape was constantly changing, like it existed halfway between solid and liquid. Strange patterns of dark light ran across its surface. Energy readings spiked instantly, then dropped as sensors failed to lock onto anything stable. Commander Vale stared at the screen, feeling the same pressure in his mind he had felt before, but stronger now, almost painful. He realized then that this thing wasn't just watching, it was listening, searching. "Shields up," Vale ordered calmly, though his heart pounded. "Power to weapons, but do not fire unless provoked." Lieutenant Ceylon nodded and relayed the commands. Around them, the crew moved quickly, though the tension in the air was thick enough to choke on. "Commander," Brill said from the science station, "we're being scanned, not by technology, by thought. It's a kind of mental probe. It's touching every mind on board." Vale winced as the pressure in his head grew stronger. He could feel it now, something pulling at his memories, brushing against his thoughts. It didn't feel like malice. It felt like curiosity, but that didn't make it safe. Across the bridge, junior officers were struggling. One collapsed to the floor, clutching his head. Another whispered nonsense. Selin gritted her teeth and muttered, "If this is a handshake, I'd hate to see a punch." A call came through. The Kalen Drift, the Shardari ship that had traveled with them, was hailing them. Vale gave the signal, and the voice of Ambassador Rykos filled the bridge. "Commander Vale, disengage. That is not something you can fight." Vale didn't turn away from the screen. "We're not attacking, but we're not running either." Rykos paused. "The Council will not support you. If you provoke it, you will be alone." Vale let that sink in. "We've been alone before." The line went silent. Then the creature, or whatever it was, shifted again. A wave of force spread out from it, not physical, but mental. All across the ship, the crew cried out. Memories flooded their minds. Some wept. Others shouted names of lost loved ones. The entity was digging through their pasts like pages in a book. Vale could see flashes from his own life. His mother's smile, his first time seeing the stars, the day he stood before the Earth Assembly and agreed to represent humanity. "Commander," Brill said, barely holding on, "It's learning. It's trying to understand who we are." Vale knew they had to respond, not with weapons, but with something else. He stood in the center of the bridge and faced the viewport. "This is Commander Joran Vale of the Earth Alliance," he said, clearly. "We are explorers. We are fighters when needed, but we are not afraid. You want to know what we are? We're the ones who ask why, who keep pushing even when we're told to stop. We're the ones who don't quit." The pressure lifted, just a little. The pulsing slowed. The creature seemed to hesitate. Then something incredible happened. Second signal appeared on the sensors. Smaller but powerful. A new ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel, sleek and glowing with strange energy. It didn't match any known Council design. "Who the hell is that?" Salen asked, eyes wide. Brill's fingers flew across the controls. "Unknown configuration. Wait. It's answering the ring. Sending counter signals. Not hostile." Vale's eyes narrowed. "Open a channel." The screen flickered, then cleared. A figure appeared, humanoid in shape but surrounded by a halo of shifting light. The voice was gentle but echoed strangely, as though coming from far away. "We are the Sarathi. We have watched you. Your defiance has been heard." Vale blinked. "You were listening?" "For a long time," the voice replied. "The others feared the dark. You stood in it and did not retreat. We respect that." Brill stared at the figure. "Are you protecting us?" "We are offering balance," the Sarathi replied. "The thing you face is not evil, but it does not understand mercy. It learns through pain. You have shown a better way." The gateway pulsed again, but the mental weight was gone. The creature began to retreat. Slowly, it folded back through the ring, vanishing into the space beyond. The portal shimmered once, then dimmed. Silence returned to the bridge. Vale exhaled. "Is it over?" "For now," the Sarathi said, "but the echo of your choice will reach far. Be ready." Then the screen went dark. Back at Union headquarters a week later, The council was in chaos. Delegates shouted over one another. Some wanted to punish Earth. Others wanted to know more about the Sirathi. But one thing had changed. Humanity was no longer seen as a threat. They were seen as a force, a new kind of leader in a galaxy, grown used to silence. Commander Vale stood on a balcony overlooking the council chambers. Seelan joined him, arms crossed. "They're still arguing," she said. "They'll argue for a long time," Vale replied. "Think they'll ever thank us?" "Doesn't matter," he said with a smile. "We didn't come for thanks, we came to be heard." Behind them, a new banner was being hung. The emblem of Earth, now joined with a symbol of the Sirathi, two lights, joined in a circle. The stars, beyond, waited quiet once more, but not empty, not forgotten. And this time, when they whispered, humanity would be ready to answer.